So you want to start a business, but you're not sure where to start. The first place you need to start is, do you want to sell a service or physical products? That's about it for a start. That's pretty straightforward. The beauty of physical products is you can sell physical products, you can automate it in a way where people place orders and you'll use a warehouse and those automatically get shipped. That's down the road, fine. But that is one thing. You can, in theory, make money while you sleep, right? So that's nice. The thing with services is, often they can be a little bit more profitable because the costs are lower, because it's you. Think of cleaners, think of a car wash, think of somebody out who's going to pressure wash your driveway. Think of a service. So that's the other side of the coin. Both products and services need to solve problems for customers. You have to be doing something that either they can't do, don't want to do, or takes a little bit of life off their plate. That's it. By you having a business, you're making their life better or easier, and that's all we're doing. Bear in mind, every single product, almost, serves a purpose. That purpose can be entertainment. That purpose can be satisfaction. I mean, there's a bottle of Pepsi. What purpose does this serve? Well, it's a drink, great, so it's got some water in it, and it tastes nice. So that's why I choose Pepsi. Every single other product has a purpose. And when you're selling something, it needs to make sense to someone else. They have to be willing to give you money for the solution. So I run a business called Murgs. The reason I share the business is just for transparency. It's to show that this is what I'm actually doing every day. I've been running this business now for 8 years, and I've been full-time for 3. So I share the business, so you can look on the website and be like, oh, this guy's not full of shit. He's actually that's what he said he was going to do. So that's why. I sell physical products. I sell weightlifting belts, knee supports, knee sleeves, that sort of thing for CrossFitters and weightlifters. And it solves a problem because people have bad knees or they need support. My solutions are really to increase performance so you train a little bit better, and we prevent injuries. And the better you are at solving that problem, the more trust you've got behind you, the more you can charge. Right, that's it. And even things like clothing brands, they solve a problem. They solve a problem of people feeling like they exist on their own. They build communities and groups, and it's part of an identity. It's part of people feeling like they're valued and worth something and part of a community. So even silly things like clothing solve a problem. The best place to start, and I'm going to talk exclusively about selling products because I don't sell services. We will cover services real quick. Services are good because services can be slightly more profitable. Imagine if you are a lawyer, right? You would provide a service. I would come to you, say, look, I've got this legal problem. They would say, right, all they need to give me is their time. That's true, because that's like a man or a woman reading books, looking things up, doing research. That is just their time. And they can charge a lot more because the barrier to entry to be a lawyer is massive. You have to have accreditations, you've got to have things backing it up. That's where the trust comes in. All those degrees, the trust, that builds trust. If I said, yeah, I can do your law, in theory, I could, theoretically, but I wouldn't have your trust. You'd look at me and be like, what do you know about law? And I'd be like, well, I can use the internet, I can do some research. Yeah, but we don't want that, hence why people go to real lawyers. So we're going to sell products, and the reason of that is because I'm a big fan of it, because you can make money while you sleep. And that sounds a bit abstract, it sounds a bit guru, it sounds a bit bollocks, but you can. The way the Murgs is set up at the minute, it started out just at home. I was taking orders online, shipping products out myself for years, for probably 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. And working a full-time job at the same time. This is what I recommend as a great start. To me, it's like an apprenticeship in entrepreneurship. There's a lot of ships there. It's really good because you don't dive in, things don't get crazy real quick. There's a lot to learn about running a business. And if things get moving too fast, you can get underwater real quick. There are times now, I've been doing this for 8 years, where I'm like, wow, didn't see that coming, and things go wrong. So Doing it the slow and steady way is fantastic. Back to solving a problem. You need to have a think about a problem that you have solved for you or someone else has solved for you. It's really good to base this business around a topic that you're passionate about. That is so important. And I've heard people say that years and years ago, and I was like, yeah, okay. No, that is so important, because some of the days are awful. There's some really hard days where it's like, I've got these things to do. And it just, if you didn't love the business, if you didn't love the products, if you didn't love the ideas, you'd give up. You'd call it a day. You'd say, no, thank you. I'm going to give this a miss. And finding a problem, look at your hobbies, look at your interests, look at what you do in your life. What do you do? What's an inconvenience? What is a problem? What's a pain? For me, it was knee sleeves. That was the solution I found. I was in the gym, I was squatting, and I had a really bad left knee. I used to drive a Land Rover Defender, a 1989, so the clutch was intense, to put that politely. And I got a really bad repetitive strain injury in my left knee. I went to the doctors. The doctors were like, so when does it hurt? I says, when I'm squatting and when I'm driving. Their response was, could you try not driving and squatting? And I was like, no, I basically drive to the squats, and like I go to work and I go and do gym things and go and do other things. So I was like, right, if they're not going to help me, I'll have to help myself. Went in search of the common solution, knee supports, and went out there, bought a pair. They came in the post. There was only one, and I was like, this is not a pair of knee sleeves, what the heck? And it cost me, I think, £30. And I was like, £30 for one? Yes, I've only got one bad knee, but at the same time, I like the balance. I like it to feel the same way we don't wear one shoe. No, let's get this equal and right. So I thought, that's extortionate, that's ridiculous. I'm going to start having a look into see if I can sell knee sleeves. Because if you do the breakdown on a pair of knee sleeves, it's not that complicated. If you want to have a look, Murgs.co.uk, it's just a pair of knee supports. They're made of neoprene, and it's not that big of a job. Things start getting complicated when you're getting into electronics and other things. That starts getting, that's above my head. But for a pair of knee supports, works a treat. One unique selling point that I decided to do for these knee supports that we sell was sell them as pairs. No, there should not only be one. No, here's two. And that already is one step on being slightly unique in the marketplace. When it comes to being unique, you do not have to be completely unique. You do not have to develop your own brand new product. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to do something for a customer that's better than someone else. Think about it. How many lawyers are out there? Millions. They're all looking at the same law. It's not that lawyers are oversaturated, it's just that some of them are really shit and some of them are really good. So the main thing for me and for you is make sure whatever you are trying to do, that it's very good. And it won't be at first. It will be good at first. And then as you progress and get years down the line and you evolve and iterate and you get feedback from customers, you'll improve the product and you'll look back and you'll be like, wow, I can't believe the first one was so reasonable because this one's way better. Yeah, that's how it goes. That's business. That's life, right? You learn new things and update the sort of memory and the thoughts. So when it comes to that, we want to solve a problem. Price is also important. I recommend starting out with a lower price point. This makes sense in the context of what I did. When I started Murgs, I started it with £2,000 at my own home and still had a job in engineering. That was not my source of income. It was hopefully going to be one day, but at that time, you still don't really know. So I set out to try and solve this problem of knee sleeves, but didn't have to make, £3,000 a month to try and cover my own expenses of my life. And because of that, I could sell knee sleeves much cheaper. When we brought the knee sleeves out, they were £35 a pair with free delivery. And you look at that and you're like, wow, there ain't much profit in that. But we built so much trust. I will keep saying we, I'm sorry, it's only me. And that just builds trust. If you've got a product that's okay, let's call it a 5 out of 10. It's fine. It does a job. It's not amazing. It's not outstanding. but it does solve a purpose. It serves a purpose and it solves a problem. If that product costs £1, people will buy that and they will be ecstatic. They'll be like, oh my God, I bought this for only £1 and it does what I want, because their expectations are low. If you sold that same thing for £500, people would come to you and be like, I spent £500 on this. Is that it? So it's about meeting expectations. The best thing, and like I say, what I've learned through experience, start with a price point that's low, that's affordable. People, when they buy from specifically a new store, are taking a risk. It's a gamble. There's stores out there that are just scams, straight up. And your first version of a website, I'm sorry, mine did too, will look as close to a scam as ever. Because you've whipped up a website, it's a bit of something. So that's why the price needs to be reasonable. That's why there needs to be trust there. There needs to be good return policies. There needs to be good delivery. People want their things ASAP, you know? And it's really funny because you've got to give value for money, but at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is build trust. So we're trying to reduce the amount of risk from a potential customer who comes to you, and by reducing the price, that says to them, I can roll the dice on this. You know, our knee sleeves at £35. People were like, I can roll the dice on this. It's not going to bankrupt me if it all goes wrong. Right? And that also really helps. Building reviews. Reviews are so powerful that start collecting reviews when you're happy the product works as intended. If you've ever had an email from someone being like, tried these new knee sleeves out and they were fantastic, send them a message. Be like, I really appreciate you. Thank you for choosing Murgs and being a customer. Could you pop that into a review? Link to Trustpilot, or link to website, or link to product thing. Link them. Make it so easy. And most people, especially if they know it's a small business, will go out of their way and be like, yeah, I've got time for that. You look after me, I look after you. And it's just such a simple thing. Even now, we give away wristbands. They're like a lightweight sweatband for people that leave reviews. I don't incentivize good reviews in any sense. I do not ask for a good review. You're not allowed to. But I say, can you leave a review? And sometimes they come in and they're like 3 or 4 stars. And it's like, okay. A lad left me a 4-star the other day and I says, what can I do to improve that? And straight up, he was like, I haven't tried the product for long enough yet. So you get some people like that. But back to solving a problem. Start looking around your own life, like I did with the bad knee and the knee sleeves. I'm not saying you have to go and start selling knee supports. In fact, I wouldn't waste your time, because there's other areas and other niches that will be more profitable and make more sense. Honestly, copying someone else's business model does nothing but leave you behind. You copy me all you want, honestly, but genuine advice, if it was John talking to a second John, I'd be like, you do something with your take on it. Do your twist. Your unique selling point can be that it's very good. It can be that the style is a certain style. Even things that appeal to what you might think is not many people will actually appeal to millions. Like, this is really funny. A few years ago, Lucy's grandma, Lindsay, that's my wife, Lucy, and her grandma said, I know you're selling things for CrossFit. Isn't that a bit of a fad, a bit of a trend? And at the time, I was like, Lindsay, there's millions of people doing CrossFit. But when it's not in your world or outside your scope, it's almost like it doesn't exist. You know, like, I ride a motorcycle. I see bikes everywhere. There will be more than enough people that understand motorbikes exist, but don't realise the culture and the world and the different types of bikes and the different types of gear. And there's so many factors and variables in these niches that you can really get into one and offer a good offering. That's another tip. Pick a niche. And I don't mean pick a niche like something like clothing. That's not a niche. Do you know what? I would recommend you not sell clothing. That's one of the few things. Clothing and electronics. Everyone sells clothing. You can go to a local supermarket and buy clothing. You cannot be the cheapest. You could have a certain style. I've missed my exit again. You could have a certain style or a certain design or a certain feel to the clothing, But at the same time, I think clothing is so oversaturated that it'll be hard to compete. It is good, however, to dive into something specific. You will have a hobby. There will be people out there that their hobby is oil painting. The people will love oil painting. People love a bit of everything. And if that appeals to you, or you've got a passion or an interest, start looking at that. Start looking at other products. Start looking at what other people are doing. Start doing the research. And by research, I just mean looking around consciously. Because we live in this world where we drive around and look at things, but I'll be honest, 2/3 of the time, we're just like dogs sat in a car seat. We look at things and we see them, but we're not looking at them, if that makes any sense. And start paying attention to products that you're using and how the packaging comes, how the delivery comes, what the service is like. Start paying attention to brands where you're like, wow, that service was great, I'd probably go there again. Or start looking at brands where you're like, that were bad. No, no thank you. So start being aware of business. That is the first place to be. And for those guys out there or girls that have sold some stuff and you've made a start, fantastic. This is a little bit too basic for you. But at the same time, everyone on the internet wants to give really high level advice about how to get your business from 10 million to 50. That's just not useful for most people. That's not useful for me. I don't need to be getting from 10 to 50 million. Like, let's worry about other things. So, yeah, start with awareness. Start with a notes page in your phone and start throwing ideas in. Literally, when you find something that's good, you find an advert that catches your eye and you're like, that's interesting. Something that makes you smile. Something that's like, resonates with you. Going back to the products, things that resonate with you will absolutely resonate with other people. At Murgs, I've got a touch of the OCD, just enough that no one's ever noticed, but enough that now that I'm taking medication, it helps. Turns out, I'm quite a minimalist. I like very simple, I like black and white. It sounds boring. I mean, I'm driving an Audi now, and it's black, and I think it's my 4th black Audi. I just like black and white. And when I get my cars, I always take all the badges off. And you might be like, nah, that's a bit overkill. No, I like the cleanness and I like the look of no badges. And I accidentally, without knowing at the time, developed a product range that offered that minimalistic solution. It wasn't fancy flashy colours. It weren't garish, it weren't bright, it weren't bold, it weren't in your face. It's just black knee sleeves with a white logo. And I look at that and think, wow, I at the time didn't realise I was creating a brand based around minimalism and simplicity, but effectiveness. And that's what I want you to be more aware of. Whatever your cup of tea is, go with that. There's some people I know that are covered in tattoos. They've got tattoos all over. Not my cup of tea. I've not got one. I like the simplicity of plain human skin. But there will be some other people out there that are like, tattoos are my thing. Yes. And there'll be people out there that want a pair of knee sleeves with similar style designs to what you might find on a tattoo. There'll be someone out there that's like, nah, I want some knee sleeves with a big grey skull on it with a snake coming out of its eyes. There will. But that's not my thing, but it doesn't mean it's not a thing. And it's really weird when you start realising the sort of diversity of people. People are weird. People love all sorts of different quirky things, even in places you didn't know were a thing. So this is just your introduction to starting an online business. I talk about e-commerce, like I say, selling physical products, because that's my area of expertise. If you're there thinking, no, my auntie's a cleaner, her business is doing fantastic, I'm going to dive into that, great. If that's your cup of tea, a lot of the same rules apply. You have to offer a really good, I'll say product, but service. It needs to be really good. That's it. And it needs to be an attractive price when you start out. So, yeah, mindfulness is step one. Step one is starting to be aware, starting to look around, starting to pay attention, make notes, do all sorts of things. Here's another one. If you want any help or a hand or guidance, leave a comment. I am here to help. I have nothing to sell you. Like I say, the reason I mentioned Murgs as the brand is only so you can go on and have a look and see what sort of product images I'm using. And if you want some knee sleeves, that's just a bonus. I don't know, you don't have to buy Murgs ones. Cool. So, yeah, if you need a hand with anything, drop a comment down below. Any thoughts, any ideas? Another thing, your ideas will not be unique. They might be unique-ish. They might be your own take on something. But it's very likely someone out there has already done a version of or something similar. And that's fine too. That's fine. It's okay to sell the same thing as other people, as long as it makes sense to your type of customer and that's something that they want, right? So don't be afraid of taking what other people have done. Look at car manufacturers. Some car manufacturers literally share models. I know there's a few, I don't know if it's like a Nissan, a Toyota and a Subaru. And there's the Toyota, I don't know, GT86 and then the Subaru BRZ. Long story short, they're the same car. They've just got their own finishing touches, shall we say. So that's also important, but it just needs to be good. Anyway, mindfulness. Start looking at mindfulness, start looking at businesses, start looking at products, start paying attention to something that you might want to do, because I think this will be really useful down the line. Starting a business is not about day one when you make the website, you ship your first product. It's not. It's really not. Like, don't worry about all that. Yes, it's cool to have goals and milestones, but business is a process. It's not, there's no end result. There may be a goal, but if you think about it, you're never finished. Because if that was the case, I think Apple, if they set a goal of a certain amount of revenue, or we want to be worth $1 trillion, well, what do you do when you get there? Just turn it off? No, you just keep going. So think of it as a never-ending process as well. This is not something that you're like, right, I'm going to do it. No, you go to the shop and you do your shopping. You come home and shopping is done. When it comes to a business, it's ever moving, ever flowing and evolving. So, yeah, start keeping those little peepers open. Keep looking round, see what you can see. And we'll come back to this with another episode on specifically what I look for in products. What am I looking for? And that'll be the next video in the lineup. Anyways, you go get looking. I'm gonna keep driving, and I'll catch up with you guys in a bit. Adios. This video was gonna be in 2 parts, but is now one massive part. So let's continue. So when it comes to products, what do I recommend you look for? First, nothing bigger than a shoebox. Literally, because if it gets too big or clunky, it starts being expensive to ship. We've had problems in the past with weightlifting belts, because when I used to ship them, I know that I can roll it up, stuff it into a box or a bag, and it's gonna be fine. When I've sent belts to Amazon, they have sent them out in the form that they've received them. So they send them out a meter long package for a weightlifting belt, which doesn't weigh an awful lot. So that can be inconvenient because you end up paying more for postage and shipping. Another thing is make sure your product is not fragile. Fragile products are a bad place to start. If they're starting with the wrong product, and I don't mean just, if you try to sell ornate vase or vase or whatever you want to call it, and you were importing them from China, hypothetically, they might not all get here in one piece. And if they do, it's going to be in an enormous box because of all the packaging. The size of the carton's going to be huge, the shipping's going to be a lot, getting it from a different country to the UK is going to be costly, and then you've got Royal Mail, Evra, all these different people that might just kick that parcel all the way to the customer's house. We don't want a customer opening their brand new vase that they're excited to receive and them go, oh, it's just a box of broken glass. It's just one way to cut out any more headaches, any more problems. Another thing, make sure the product has not necessarily got many moving parts. It can have moving parts, but moving parts cause problems. Not literally immediately, it's not a hard and fast rule, it's just if things are electronic or things move or things do complex things, again, they've really got a lot more chance of breaking. You've got more chance with warranty claims, you've got more chance. It's just an area that I recommend avoiding. On top of that, I'd recommend avoiding things and areas that have a lot of regulation. Not because we're putting out products that are dangerous or risky, but at the same time, there's enough regulation when it comes to HMRC and how to do this and how to do that. You do not need to have another problem where you're selling products for babies. If you're selling baby-related products, there will be inherently more regulations, because if anything goes wrong, it's the life of a baby at risk. That is problematic. A pair of knee sleeves, if the pair's a little bit too small, nothing happens. Like, that's kind of it. If you put your weightlifting belt on, it can't kill you. We don't want any liability or any risk of liability to other people. Make sure that the product has accompanying other products. Hypothetically, you come into the market and you want to sell grips for golf clubs. Where else can that go? This is not for now. We're not rushing into more products and more offerings. We're not going to dive in and start trying to offer a range. But also, when you've got a product, what else would that person want? Back when I started Murgs, we got a couple of years in, sold a few pairs of knee sleeves, and I had to make the decision. I'm thinking, do I own it and double down on knee supports and be a supports brand? Or alternatively, do I offer a medley of other products and be a lifting brand? I decided to go down the lifting brand route, because if it's a supports product, how many people have bad knees, bad wrists, bad shoulders? The same people probably don't want a support for everywhere. If you've got bad knees, you've probably got bad knees. Your wrists, they're likely to be okay. You are very unfortunate if you're trying to train and require supports in all areas. That's a place where it's like, are you really going to? Whereas when I did it, we went down the knee supports, and then I'm like, right, what else can I offer? What can be tangential to this? What can be an accompanying product? Why would a customer need to come back later? Because if they've tried our knee supports and they're like, wow, these really help, all I want is a few months later you to go to the gym and think, right, I see a lot of people wearing lifting belts, but these knee sleeves are good. I wonder if Murgs have got a lifting belt. You come to Murgs and you're like, well, the product was good. The reviews are great. I can attest to that. They sent me a free pair of wristbands out because I left a review, and they'll probably come back. That's how we get repeat customers. It's fine selling a £65 thing to one person one time, but the cost to get these new customers in the door can be so expensive that we need other things for them to come and stay for. The same reason restaurants have a menu. If a restaurant only sold pasta, you'd go to the restaurant, you'd be like, right, I'll have the pasta, please. And then next time when you're going back, there's a chance that you're like, I don't really fancy pasta, but that restaurant does such a good job, but I don't fancy pasta. I've had pasta, I don't want that again. What else do they have? And if this restaurant has nothing else, then there's less reason for you to return. The same reason if a petrol station only had petrol and you've got a diesel car, you'd be like, oh, I filled the petrol one up there, but I can't fill this up. Never mind, I'll give my money to someone else. And that's all customers do. If they can't find the solution with you because they trust you, we've already built that trust, we've established it, they've used the product, they like it. Same at Murgs, we offer a 60-day full use money back guarantee. And at first that sounds quite aggressive, and it were a bit of a daunting prospect thinking about putting that in place. It's been fantastic. It is the best trust builder ever. And because of that, people can actually try the product. They can get the knee sleeves, they can go to the gym in them. I said as well, I'm like, look, I don't want you doing squats in your front room. That's not relevant. It's not like real life. I want you under a bar. I want you in the gym. I want you to feel how they fit. I want you to see how sweaty you are, how they exist. And that, again, just another powerful thing for building trust. But when you've got trust, you need to execute on that and have another reason for someone to come back. That's the reason that especially clothing brands keep releasing new stuff. They keep releasing, they keep fishing, they keep casting that rod back into the pool because they know the fish are there and they know the fish are hungry. The fish being the customers. So make sure when you offer a product, you are at least remotely mindful of the other complementary offerings. don't start out by trying to offer too many things. Don't get me wrong, 2 or 3, fine. But Murgs started out with a pair of knee sleeves in 2 different colours. And I look back now and they are hideous. On one pair, if you've seen the knee sleeves on the website, this will make more sense. There's 4 panels to a pair of knee sleeves. The front 3 were grey and the back panel was blue. And then on the other pair, the front 3 were blue and the back panel was grey. Why? Why? But it was a good enough product that some people that took the risk, they used it, they liked it, and it worked. And then after not that long, I was like, we should do an all black version. And that's where things really took off. That's where things started to work. But yeah, the main thing is we don't want to have any liability. We want to make sure that this product is not going to harm anyone, and we don't want it to break on its way to us, on its way to customers. We don't want to spend loads of money on shipping. So you're thinking, right, John, I've made my mind up. I'm going to start selling fluffy steering wheel covers. Random example, but if that's what you think is going to work, great. You would then go to a sourcing website and you might be like, where do you even buy products from? I source a lot of things from China, and it's always been somewhere that works well. It's just looked after me as China. And I don't mean I've not had problems. You will have problems wherever you source from. Any place, any country, any language, problems will happen because it's humans, and humans make problems. So there's a website called Alibaba, alibaba.com, I think. Google it, Alibaba. And on Alibaba, it's a Chinese sourcing website, and it's full of manufacturers and suppliers. It's almost like eBay or Amazon, but they are all manufacturers. They will show off their wares, they will show what they've got, they'll show what they can do. A lot of them have big catalogues as well with hundreds, some even thousands and thousands of products. When you get to Alibaba, we're not going to get too into the weeds right now because you will learn this as you go. This is what people mean when they say you learn as you go. You'll go to Alibaba, and there are either some people that are manufacturers, some people that are trading companies. A trading company is somebody who doesn't own the manufacturing. You could argue that Murgs is a trading company. We don't literally make the products, but we supply them through us under our requirements. And that's all that a trading company does. So on one hand, I've seen people say, oh, don't work with trading companies. They can be useful. And the reason I believe that they can be useful is because they get probably preferable minimum order quantities and other things if they're doing a lot of business with this warehouse. If you go straight to the manufacturer, they might want you to order 1,000 pieces of whatever you're looking at. You might be able to negotiate down to 500, 200 or 100, but that's something to be mindful of as well. Before we start ordering products, we need to have a tester. You must, every single time you order a product, until you're really happy your supplier knows just what you want. The supplier for our knee sleeves, been working with those guys now for 6 years. That's not 6. 6 years. And they're fantastic. I can send a WhatsApp right now, not right now, but I can send a WhatsApp and place an order. I can just say the colours over a text. I don't have to do technical drawings. I can be like, I'm looking for this and that. And now I could risk that supplier shipping me a product knowing it's great. Most of them, you cannot do that. That is, you think you're saving money by not getting the sample, because you are. Some samples you go on and some samples are free. Some samples are medium priced, say $50, because it is customized to your requirements as well. Don't get me wrong, a sample is, in theory, a version of the finished product. That's what you're gonna sell. And they need to ship, you need to see what they make, how they ship it, with it branded and barcoded and whatever you need. You need to see that product before you place that order. Because there's been times when I have not, and they have let me down. Seriously, there was one time where I ordered a load of weightlifting straps from Pakistan. The sample came in fine, and then after that I was like, right, great, can we have that sample, and I want this design for the box, and I want it in matte white. And they were like, yep, done, easy. They all came, it wasn't white, it had like a hue of purple to it. And I remember looking at them thinking, oh my God, there's 300 of these. What do I even do with them? Anyway, at the time, the business weren't big enough to say, right, we're just going to eat this cost and throw them in the bin. No, they had to go out for sale. So I used them as free gifts. I used them as complimentary items. I used them as if anybody wanted any prizes for a competition or there was some sort of giveaway, I'd use them because they weren't right. All because I missed out on getting a sample, a finished product sample. Some places will try and charge you through the roof for a sample, and some places it'll be very reasonable. That is manufacturer specific, but be honest with these people as well. Be very honest and say, look, I'm not looking to order 1,000 of these, and no, I don't have $200 for your sample, you know, because you'll want to get samples from 3 to 5 different places to sample them, to test them, to look at them, to use them. When I got samples for the first few pairs of knee sleeves, I got it from 3 to 5 different companies. Say we said 5. 3 of them were acceptable and they got promoted for more testing. 2 pairs, they were shit. They were absolutely rubbish. So they were destined for the bin on day 1, just from getting them out the packet. And you'd look at them and you'd be like, wow, there's strings hanging off it, or the stitching's not right, or it looks rushed or unfinished. If that is their one shot to impress you and sell you as a customer, and they can't even get the sample right, it's very unlikely, or at least I don't go back to those people. I'm like, you had a chance. You know, first impressions matter. You go out on a date with someone, and if she turns up, or he, you know, whatever you're into, wearing a bin bag with a hole cut in the top, you'd be like, I don't know if that's what I'm going for. Could be lovely, but at the same time, there's enough suppliers and manufacturers out there, you can shop around, you can go elsewhere. So you've narrowed it down to 3. You've got 3 out of your 5 products and you're like, wow, these are good. Try them, test them, use them, order things in your size. That's exactly what I did. I'd order all products in size large or extra large. I am gonna wear them, I'm gonna live in them, I'm gonna use them. When I got down to the final testing, so I think 2 out of 3 of these pairs now had been approved for, these are getting there. And then what I did is I tried to stress test them and abuse them, batter them and destroy them. You might think that's a bit overkill, but if you can destroy them with ease, customers will destroy them by accident. That's it. And I don't mean all of them, because most customers are not idiots, but a few are. A few people, I can't believe how they spend money and then recklessly use the products they've purchased. It's so bizarre. So at one point I remember putting them in a pan on the cooker top, in a pan full of boiling water, put a pair of knee sleeves in each pan, so 2 pairs of knee sleeves over 2 pans, put the lids on and boiled them for half an hour. Why? Well, just in case some muppet puts them in the wash on a really, really hot wash, what happens? Have you ever seen it where people put money in an oven, or especially the new UK pounds, because they're made of plastic, they shrink and they turn really miniature. I didn't want to open this pan to find out that these knee sleeves have just crumbled, they've disintegrated. Yes, we had a slight bit of colour loss on both pairs, but at the same time, we don't recommend putting them in at 90 degrees C or 100 degrees C for so long. It makes no sense at all. But you have to do the destructive testing, because it's easier if you do it or someone else will do it. And it's better if it's with you, because yes, you've paid some money for it, but at the same time, business takes money to get started. You can't you can, and people probably have, started a business with 50p. People have always got stories and tales about how they did this, they did that, they started with nothing and blah, blah, blah. Great. But if you do want to start a business, it's really wise to have a little bit of money. I don't mean a loan, I don't mean 10 grand, I mean like 2. I started out with £2,000. When you've got £2,000, you can have £300 to £500 allocated for ordering samples. At the end of the day, when you're starting a business, you've got nothing but a few £1,000s and an idea. So you've got to start somewhere. You've got to spend a little bit of this money on wise purchases to try and recoup these costs later on. One thing that I see too many people get caught up on, or I don't want to say worried about, but more stressed over than required, is packaging. Packaging is important, brackets, sort of. It's sort of important. It's important if you're Apple. Apple are known for their boxes. They open those boxes and they glide out beautifully. Apple are, what, the second most valuable company on earth. Ever. And you're like, wow, you guys are big shot. You might even be number one. I'm not sure at this point. And you look at the packaging for them, and it's easy to think that you hear people online saying packaging is part of the customer experience. Yeah, but when we're starting out a business, the customer experience is the product. Let's keep things simple. Most times anyway, people rip the packaging open and they throw it in the bin. And then they try the product and go, oh, I got the wrong size. So they send it you back, and then now that packaging's wasted anyway. Murgs used literally clear poly bags for years. There are some products to this day that ship in just a clear poly bag. That's it. Because, yeah, some of our more important products, or our products we're ordering in bigger numbers, the knee sleeves particularly, we can order bags. You know, I went on the other day and I get my bags from a different supplier than where the knee sleeves come from. And I think I ordered 3,000 or 5,000 bags because it was $100 more than like the tier below. And once your packaging's fine, it's fine. A mistake I made with packaging, try make it resealable. Try make it obvious, try make it resealable. Our bags at one point, really hard to describe, but where you open them at the top was in a place that is hard to find if you're not that bothered at looking. I knew where to open it because I've opened 100 of these, thousands, but the customers would rip the tops clean off. And with that, they would rip the sticky seal back off. So when the bags came back, they were always destroyed. When we re-updated the bags, they then became more obvious, because you will realise that people, they don't care. They've paid you a lot of money and they don't care that much. They just want this problem to go away, and they think they've just bought the solution. So packaging, yes, it's good to have one day, but I'm still a big believer that will come. Do not start out on day one, be like, right, I need to make sure my logo looks nice and it looks nice on packaging. It's too much. We're not doing this in a rush. We're just going to get it right. This is an apprenticeship in entrepreneurship. We are trying to get this right, but we're trying to learn as we go. And that's all this is about. This is how you really get good at this, by doing it. So packaging can be cool, don't need it just yet. And finally, barcodes. Do your products need barcodes? No, absolutely not. No, they don't at all. They will eventually, but only if somebody else is going to do the shipping. At Murgs, I use a third-party fulfillment centre, and that sounds like a mouthful, but all it is, so do you know when you go on Amazon and you buy a product from Amazon and it says fulfilled by Prime, and you're like, oh, cool, it's going to come tomorrow. That's because Amazon have warehouses all over the country. They have hundreds. Sellers like me send products to Amazon in bulk, and then Amazon dispatch to customers using their own drivers. That is all that a third-party fulfillment centre is. It's just a third-party company that's job is to store, pick, pack, dispatch your products. And you don't need that yet. But eventually that'll be somewhere that you're heading. That's how we increase our automation. There's been times when I've had Black Friday events years ago, and I come home from work to find 50 orders. And I'm like, oh, 50. And don't get me wrong, that's great. It's fantastic that you're selling tons of stuff, but it doesn't mean it's not a problem. Sometimes volume can be challenging. It really is. Selling too much is better than not selling enough, but they are both problems, just at opposite ends of the scale. So no, you do not need barcodes straight away. One day you will, but we'll come back to that. You go online and you purchase barcodes. You don't just type a number in, you purchase them. So they're all brand new, they're unique to you, and nothing else has that. It's almost taken off the list. Again, barcodes make products look more professional, but at the same time, when did you last look at a barcode? Probably never. You probably don't pay any attention to barcodes at all, which for now, that's fine. That's part of the research phase. That's part of understanding all the tiny little pieces that go into this. And again, don't go out and spend your first initial budget, especially if you're picking and packing. If you're doing the picking and packing, don't waste your time. Do not be barcoding things that don't need barcodes, that are only going to go in the bin, especially if you're fulfilling it yourself. And finally, variations. So you've got an idea, you want to sell fluffy steering wheel covers. You do you. But you're unsure on which ones to offer. Sometimes the minimum order quantities will limit your ability to offer different styles or different colours. Just keep that range to a minimum. There's been times when I think we've had 6, 7, maybe even 8 different colours of the same knee sleeves. And then one day I'm thinking, we've still got them in grey, and we've still got them in blue, and blah, 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 blah. And I looked through all the statistics. I think it was 80% of all the knee sleeves that we sell are either black with a white logo or black with a black logo. And all I'm thinking is, why am I wasting my time and life trying to keep camouflage in stock, and the blue ones in stock, and the grey ones in stock? I always used to come from this perspective of, it's the illusion of choice. The same thing in a restaurant. You'll go into a restaurant and yes, they'll be able to serve you all the food, but they will have 3, 5, 7 dishes that they know sell like hotcakes. We keep plenty of that in because that is what the majority of our customers want. Always have an option that seems like the boring option. People just like plain things sometimes. You know, sometimes jazzy works, sometimes unique works, sometimes wacky works, but sometimes black works, sometimes plain works. I am someone who likes minimalism. If you only sold fluffy steering wheels that were blue, pink, orange, and they had unicorn horns on them all the way around, I'd say no thank you. If you had a black fluffy steering wheel cover, I'd be like, yeah, that's up my street, that's just what I'm missing. So make sure there's always an option for those that like to play it safe. Some people aren't as bold as others. But then again, if that's your brand and that's what you're trying to go for and you're targeting bold, you be you, own it. You be that. If that's your unique selling point, double down. It's just the fact that I'm remarkably boring and like simple things. Doesn't mean everybody wants that. So yeah, it does seem a bit overwhelming. I get it. Especially when you dive into this world and all of a sudden you're trying to learn things like importing. Oh, even now you start looking at, and this is going to be confusing on purpose, but there's HS codes and there's different EORI numbers and there's this and there's that and then you start adding in things like VAT later. If I were to tell you about all of that right now, it would be too much. Just like when you go to school, you don't pick your GCSEs on day 1. Nah, you've got time for that, I promise. As well, these people that come in and start a business and next thing they're doing $1 million a month on month 3. This might be their 6th business. If Steve Jobs was still here and went out and started a new phone company, you would not think, that guy started a new phone company, he sold 1 million units in the first year. Can't be that big of a deal. No, he knows what he's doing. He's got all his network, he's got his fulfillment, he's got manufacturers, he's got strategies, he's got everything. But when we're trying to start a business, like I did, like you can, things are slow, things take time. Part of it as well is filling in all the gaps of knowledge that you don't have. And some things in this video, again, will have made sense, but I'm hoping 1, 2, 3 things for some of those that are already making a start really resonate. And it's like, I've been concerned about barcodes and now I know I don't need to rush into that. No, it'll come. But this is why we don't go to the bank, borrow £100,000 and risk our life on this. Because it's hard, it's stressful, it really can cripple you. It really, really can. So yeah, my advice, take it easy. Walk before you can run and crawl before you can walk. Kids are not born and we take them out and we're like, right, we're going to get straight into riding a bike. No. First, we're going to roll over from our back to our front. Then we're going to crawl. Then we're going to stand up. Then we're going to walk a little bit. Then we're going to walk a lot. Then we're going to run and fall. Then we're going to run faster and fall. And then we're going to run even faster. And by this time, you're like 7. And you think, oh, yeah, like, if you want to do this right, play the infinite game. This is a concept where you treat your business like it needs to be around forever. And that sounds like a lot. Forever's a long time. I know that. But if you were building a business and you're like, no, this has to survive the rest of my life, you would run it in a more calm, a more organized, and a more strategic way. Whereas a lot of people go firing in, they start breaking things. That is one way to do it. You know, I think they do that in Silicon Valley. That is part of it. They move fast and break things, and they see what breaks, they see how to fix it, they fix it, and they move fast and break something else. That's fine when you've got billionaire investors throwing money at people like Facebook and Instagram and all these big corporations. That's not us. We're self-employed, we're sole traders, we just want to start out selling something on the internet. So if you've got any questions, drop them down below. I want to help. This is not, oh no, I don't want to inconvenience you. No. And if you want, send me an email. Like, there's an email in the description or the bio somewhere on YouTube. Like, find it, email that. I'm here for you. I do this because it's fun. I like teaching and I like business. There's nothing to sell you. This is just everything I know, shared in a way where you don't even have to watch. You just chuck this on in the car and hopefully you get out at the other end smarter. Anyway, back to work for me, and hopefully that might have inspired you just a tiny bit. So you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch up with you in a bit. Adios.